I hope you're doing well. I love my life. Things are going great. Who could complain? We are in a different location today. We are here until just after Christmas. This is home for now. This is my in-laws. I'm stuck in the basement because we're here for a little longer, and I think they didn't want me continuing to take over the upstairs reading room. As you've seen a few episodes of the show over the years from there. We won't be doing it from there for the next 2 weeks, so that's why. So we're down in the basement, but it's actually better here. So I'm pretty happy about this office that was set up for me. You'll notice we're missing our Satoshi hat. Can't find it. We'll find it. It's somewhere in the stuff. We got in last night. You know, kid is still sick and all that other stuff. But we have so much fake news to get to that I had to make it this morning. I couldn't leave you all alone for another day without the amazing stuff that's happening. There's too much happening. I missed you all. Wanted to talk about it. Ben, good morning all. David, good morning all. It said I blocked you for a second, Dave, accidentally on a click. I don't think I did though. Okay. Good morning. Another beautiful day. It is, John. It is indeed such a beautiful day. It was a very pink. I took a picture of the sunrise this morning out here. Very pink. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Aqualodge. Every day walking with Christ. Good morning, Maxie's Vivek destroyed CNN producer. We're going to be talking about that every day walking with Christ. Remember what I said about these primary characters entering and how much they would change the conversation this time around, right? And the two I said were RFK and Vivek, and both of them I'll be talking about them today because you can't shut them up, and that's the best part of them, right? You literally can't shut them up. We love it. The A-Stack. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Getting snow in the Rockies. Coffee in hand. Great. I'm a little bummed, honestly. Like, okay, here's the truth. I hate Toronto. I don't like it. It's a shithole, right? I go because of family. It's my wife's family, so we went. But I'm a little pissed because it's typical. Here's the problem with Toronto. It's basically LA, right? It's the same traffic. It was built in the same era. It's not like an old city. As a Montrealer, when I lived in Brooklyn, very easy for me, like to navigate and know where I am and feel comfortable. Toronto is the most foreign place for me personally I've ever lived, right? As a Montrealer. So, but here's the kicker about Toronto, what makes it the ultimate shithole. The skiing in LA is better. The skiing's better. Like there's better skiing in LA, like a lot better. So not only do you get the garbage winter, it's like cold. It was so cold and rainy in Toronto. Meanwhile, at the farm in Vermont, so next year it's not going to be this way, they got dumps of snow. Winter. So I'm not going to bore you with my stupid personal stuff, but I think we're done with that. You know, Toronto, go a little earlier or something. Not when I'm missing out on that good snow. And now it's all going to melt here. Anyway, it's boring shit, right? It's fine. Huddle T, Washington. Anyway, all I mean to say, A-Stack, is I envy your snow. We don't got none. You know, I should have stayed in Vermont. Wake up, break up. Good man. Good morning, all. Good morning, Huddle T. Robert. Good morning. Keep on Bitcoining. We will. Thomas, hope you're doing great. My morning and Bitcoin talk with the count. It's a good life. Thank you, Thomas. It is. We're winning. Big time. Today is one of like the most winningest days ever. We're going to talk about it. Brian, smashing the like. B for victory. Boom attack. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Christine made it. Awesome, Christine. Thanks for coming. Pyramid 7. Thumbs up. We're going quick here. Audio is great. Thank you. It's the same. I brought the old thing back. Couldn't find my headphones this morning, but we're doing fine. Tom, I got to look over my notes here. Coffee, sun, Bitcoin. Coffee, sun, Bitcoin running. There we go. You stole my line, man. Good morning, y'all. But that's okay. It's everybody's line. Good morning. Good morning, good people. Vivek was straight gold. He was, huh? He was. King Mansa Musa, super hot down here in Florida, and Bitcoin is running even hotter. I'm here too. Hey, Johnny. All right, everyone. Indeed, you've all let the world know that on the east coast of North America, the sun is up. And around the entire globe, Bitcoin is running. So all that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what is new. So, we have some good Moscow time today. Whenever I miss a day, right, the Moscow time kind of piles up and you get some real quality. So, let's start with, I have such good ones today. I'm going to skip this one about the UN serving gourmet burgers and barbecue as it called for Americans to stop eating meat. It's okay. It's okay. Let's go into some COVID stuff here, right? What do we got about a COVID stories? Well, Fortune has told us, right, that people who skipped their COVID vaccine are at higher risk of traffic accidents. If you don't get a vaccine, you stupid shit, you're going to crash your car. Okay. So that's according to Fortune. So great for them. This one's also good. This is from the New York Post. COVID-19 hospitalizations jumped 30%. Virus is very much still with us. We know that, idiots. Now, I'm going to flip the order here. Because I'm going to run into this with the last Reuters call or the last Reuters story because it fits with our theme. But here's what the Daily Mail has said to us. Okay, this is from the Daily Mail Online. All right. Now, of course, scientists said, right? So you gotta start. They're always good when it's scientists said. Those are the best Moscow Times. Scientists might be the biggest spreaders of fake news in the world. They might be, But here's what we know. Daily Mail Online. Now scientists say breathing is bad for the environment already. I told you guys farting wasn't going to be the end of it, right? So here's what they say. Scientists say that breathing is bad for the environment. Gases we exhale contribute to 0.1%. Oh shit, 0.1% of UK's greenhouse gas emissions. It's clear, guys. Everyone in UK to deal with the problem needs to go to Canada and visit the doctors and kill themselves because they're just going to keep breathing. And what are we going to do with them? You don't got to see it. It's a shitty movie, but I used to love it in the 80s. It was called Whoops Apocalypse. It was like a British slapstick comedy. And literally, that's what the prime minister has in mind. There's an unemployment problem in Britain, so he gets people to jump off a cliff and then gives their jobs to new people. It's the same thing. Yeah, science is a super spreader of misinformation. It really is. The scientists are the worst. So these scientists are good. It's a conundrum. What are we going to do about the breathing? I say we all start dressing like Darth Vader, right? We get a Darth Vader mask and then, the breathing might get caught up in it. And then, only then, will Greta be happy if we all look like Darth Vader. It's like someone wants a life tax. Isn't that what it is? You breathed. You haven't been working out so much. Your VO2 max is down. Tax. That's better than what we have, actually, right? It's better than what we have. All right, now this is our last Moscow time before we get into our theme. But they're related because this is one of those stories about the misinformation police, right? So our first story today is going to be about Media Matters. We know what Media Matters does, right? If we all buy Darth Vader masks, don't do that. We'll have to get off-brand ones. We don't want to save Disney. We love Disney. What's happening with them? One guy they will tax the air you breathe. Some old guy. We're there. The IQ, the above 86 IQ stance is that we are actually just treating. All right. So our first story is going to be about the actual misinformation professionals, right? So who does that for a living? So that's why we're going to be talking about Media Matters. They're in the misinformation game. We've heard for a long time now from Mike Benz and others who study the architecture of censorship, the architecture of deceit, the architecture of hallucinations, right? So the design of this architecture for a long time has been a sort of business model, right? I'll censor you, and then the colleges give them money and things like that. That's why I remember remember that famous article we talked about a few times here on the show, which was that the censorship industrial complex was too big to fail. Basically, they were saying there's too much government money. We're too big now. We're going to be censoring people forever. So they said that in some article without any awareness of what they were actually saying. So they were saying, don't worry, we're fine, right? Because it was in the context of people pushing back against misinformation. So they were like, no, we're great. We're like the banks. We're too big to fail. It's fine. So we're going to talk about Media Matters in a second. But here's one, right, from Reuters. Reuters has fact checkers. Okay, Reuters has fact checkers, right? We've shown how Reuters is a news wire, right? It's basically where all the news comes from. It's just anonymous people writing under the Reuters banner saying, Joe Biden spoke at a thing today and he stuttered and peed himself. So those people, well, they would never write the pees themselves, even if it happened. But that's what they do, right? So there's no name attribution to it. They write the articles. AI could easily do it. It's very formulaic, very systematic. In the early days of CoinDesk, we created like a template to write the articles so that there was a system that we could copy every single day and churn out a lot more content, right? So don't look at it for literary highs. It was just a formula that took no authorship required, like a robot could have written it. That's why we built it that way, right? So that's what Reuters does, but they're also in the fact-checking grift, right? They do the fact-checking grift. Now imagine Reuters, right? Owned by the richest guy in Canada, by the way, right? A real scumbag and the richest guy going. So, Reuters writes this. You remember the other day when the Babylon Bee, right? The Babylon Bee. Some people say that's the reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter, right? Because he was a fan of the Babylon Bee, which is a satirical website that laughs at libtards and left-wing people and things like that. Like The Onion used to do, which is fair game. I have no problem with The Onion laughing at anyone. It was always a good show, all right, or always a good magazine. But someone created one to laugh at the other side, right? So, of course, it's the worst. So Reuters fact-checked, right? Reuters fact-checked the Babylon Bee. They did. Without any sense of irony that it is a satirical news site. And what did they say? So this is what they I'm going to read you verbatim from Reuters fact-checking trust principles. This is their contribution to misinformation and censorship. I got to read it out of order. So first of all, the Babylon Bee wrote the following, right? Child grooming content plummets on X now that Disney isn't advertising anymore. All right. So it was funny, right? Everybody laughed. Everyone had a good time, right? Ha ha ha. But Reuters, I don't know if they got the joke, right? I don't know if they really got it. So they called up Disney. Representatives from both Disney and X did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment. Verdict: satire. The claim that child grooming content on X has fallen after Disney pulled its ads in November came from a satirical website. Now, think of the low IQ people we're up against. This is it. This is what's stopping a Bitcoin standard. It's this. It's Reuters and its retarded audience that can't tell if a Babylon Bee article is satire, and some moron actually got on the phone and was like, "Do you have comment, Disney?" Verdict: satire. This is who we're up against. This is it. Buffering. So much cyber incidents. Do I have trouble? Is it not coming through clearly? Let me know if I'm having trouble. It's always different with a new setup. All right. So let's jump right into Media Matters, right? So Media Matters now pulled, it turns out, the same trick, right? Remember the trick they pulled on Elon the other day, which was the same guy refreshes until he gets exactly what he wants. And it turns out it was like 1 in 50 million that he could get objectionable ad content next to brands that don't want the ad content around them, or pardon me, the other way around, brands that want to put ad content but don't want to attach it to objectionable content. So, apparently, right, that Linda Yaccarino and the people at X knew what was happening. They showed the math, and that's why they're suing the Media Matters guy. Now, this was the thermonuclear war litigation that Elon Musk promised a few weeks ago, which happened, right? So he's going after them and anyone who funds Media Matters, and we know who funds Media Matters. It's the disinformation financiers, the Soroses. So it turns out they pulled the same trick with Rumble, right? In that day, now we've all seen what happened to Rumble this week, right? The Chinese cyber attack. Right. Now remember this Chinese cyber attack frame. Just remember this for a second, right? It's reported out there that it's a new thing. Oh, China can get access to our systems. Oh no. But remember this, that is the default. That's been the case for 20 years. The reason why they don't is the same reason why a Chinese person doesn't parachute into America and shoot people. There's going to be retaliation. It's not that simple, right? Everyone has access to every system. Like that's the way these things were built. They're all accessible to the right hackers, and military grade hackers can get into anything. So I have no proof of this, but it's been my working assumption for at least a decade that everyone can shut off the lights in everyone else's country. And the only reason they don't is because they know it will be reaped upon them if they do. It's the same principle as nuclear weapons. There's no difference as far as I can tell, right? So you got to be careful when you hear about all these stories suddenly about Chinese infiltration of our systems, right? And remember, that story just disappeared. It just disappeared, right? It was all over the news on the weekend, and then it was just gone, like it never happened, right? What happened in the meantime was Rumble was under an attack. Now, I don't know if they're related. I have no idea. Who knows? I'm not doing my own research on forensic auditing of internet traffic around the world and where the DDoS attacks are coming from. And I don't care. I don't know that, right? But what I do know is it's not news that China has access to our systems. And if they launched an attack, why didn't we launch one back? If it's true they attacked us, why didn't we launch one back, right? So because we can discount just by logic, just by smelling the bullshit, that something's up. Now, I don't know what's up. I have no idea. I'm not telling you here that I have any proof of anything about whatever happened about our secured systems in America. I just know that I understand Bitcoin. I understand how other computer systems are secured, and none of them are secure. So when I look at the lack of security in the design of these systems, it's obvious what's happening. They've had this open door to them for a long time. There's no difference. Everyone is naked before each other with these grand centralized national systems. It just comes to love the Cubs hat today. Cool. It just comes down to whether or not someone is stupid enough to risk attacking and not suffer the retribution, which would happen as far as I can tell, right? So we had those stories about the Chinese infiltration, and just by chance, there's nothing to see, guys. It's not, I have no proof. They're not related, but the one victim that I've seen publicly in this attack is Rumble, right? Rumble's had trouble ever since. And now we find out that the same Media Matters employee, right, the same one who was doing the refresh, just did that against against Rumble, right? So this is what Kaneko says. The Media Matters employee being sued by Elon Musk and X refreshed a fringe video on Rumble more than 70 times until he found a Netflix ad. Despite being the only person to view that Netflix ad next to the video, he wrote an article falsely suggesting that Netflix ads regularly appeared next to the fringe content on Rumble, pressuring advertisers to drop the platform. On X, IBM, Comcast, and Oracle had their ads appear alongside fringe media for only one person, the same Media Matters employee, out of more than 500 million active users, right? So I better get a new Norton computer vaccine before the cyber attack. It's not my bear hat, guys. I'm not a bear. There'll never be a bear, and there's no bear happening with me, right? So the same Media Matters employee has written nearly a dozen articles pressuring advertisers to pull their support of X since Elon Musk bought the company. The same intentionally fabricating defamatory material to pressure advertisers to pull their support from free speech platforms is evil, according to Kaneko the Great. But remember, it's not the same this time. We've understood the design, right? The design of the censorship industrial complex is now very clear to us, right? And it's worse than censorship industrial complex. It's brainwashing, because it's not just stopping you from hearing things. It actually injects things for you to hallucinate, right? So it also promotes hallucination. It promotes you seeing things which don't exist, right? So that's an important distinction. So censorship doesn't quite cover it. You got to add the hallucination and the brainwashing, right? Really important stuff. So that's happening, right? Now, meanwhile, so we understand the architecture of this stuff. We understand the building of this stuff, right? And once you see the design of it, it's obvious what it's for, and you can track it, you can understand it. You know, we were guessing about a lot of this stuff before, right? Maybe they had some good people at Media Matters, right? But we understand now, no, it was a deep state operation funded and designed to pressure public opinion and to brainwash them into the desired outcomes of the people pushing them around. And that's why they do stuff and tricky business like this, right? And it gets worse, right? It gets worse. Now we've got the FCC. So the FCC is the Federal Communications something something something, and this group um, uh, just went after Elon Musk again. And so Elon Musk has the glass house thing, right? Remember the glass house thing? He's got the didn't hire rocket science refugees coming across the El Paso border. What other ones does he have? I can't remember. It's like Trump. You need a quiz to get all the litigation against them in check. But this comes from one of the I'm not sure what his job is with the FCC, but he is with the FCC. His name is Brendan Carr. And so, let's call him a commissioner. I don't know what the titles of the FCC are. He's not president, but he's got some adjudicative role because he's written his dissenting opinion here. And this is what he wrote. He says, last year, after Elon Musk acquired Twitter, President Biden gave federal agencies the green light to go after them. This is a government employee, right? So this isn't just, you or me or anyone else. This is someone who's supposed to be working for Biden. So he's coming out and saying, Biden told us to go after him, and they have, right? Today, the FCC adds itself to the growing list of federal agencies engaging in the regulatory harassment of Elon Musk. I dissent. So he writes a dissenting opinion. And what's going on here is Elon got a contract years ago for Starlink in rural areas, which I use, right? And the contract was that he would get almost $1 billion released to him if he was able to prove that Starlink was accessible to X million rural Americans by whatever date, right? Now, what they end up doing is they changed the rules of that agreement, and they said now that no. It's not that it's available to this many people, which is what all the deals are like for these rural incentivized, broadcast internet stuff. In Canada, I was involved in the actual Spectrum auction for this stuff, by the way. This was something that my roommate in college wrote the Spectrum auction paper for his law school dissertation. And this was about the time when Canada was auctioning. So if you guys don't know about Spectrum auction stuff, it's actually really interesting and involves itself in some of the early game theory Bitcoin stuff. So I actually met the guy who developed the auction system. I interviewed him for Bitcoin related stuff in 2018. So this Spectrum auction system, in Canada, what we did, and this was from my actual law colleague's suggestion, it wasn't just him, but it was Maxime Bernier, who you've heard many times spoken about, I'm sure, right? They call him Mad Max in Canada. But back then, he was in charge of industry in Canada. This was nearly 20 years ago. And my friend worked for him. The best man at my wedding was his executive assistant and involved in all of his, stuff and da-da-da. So he's a friend of mine. Yeah, radio frequency spectrum. Yes, for cell phones, basically for cell phones, right? Cell tower spectrum and stuff like that. What we did in Canada was, if you wanted, we partitioned everything into rural and urban. If you wanted to bid on buying up spectrum in Toronto, for example, if you were a big, in Canada we use Bell instead of AT&T, but if it was Bell, they would have to buy X amount of rural bandwidth in order to have the chance to buy the urban one. So we basically forced them to cover non-profitable rural areas in order to have a chance to bid in an urban area, right? A pretty good trick. It worked, right? It worked. So what happened here was, and all of these deals, when it comes to these things, right, get internet out to the countryside, it's never about how many people you sign up. It's just about how much coverage you have. Well, they decided, no, it's retroactive. They changed the language, and now they're saying it's because you were supposed to give it to X million people, make it accessible, but you don't have that many clients, right? So it's a scam, right? A complete scam. So they're not giving them the $1 billion, they said, right? Anyway, but remember, right? And this is something that Bukele tweeted yesterday. He says, everything is by design. Right. So he wrote that yesterday. Bukele wrote everything is by design. Everyone's wondering what he meant. Right. What I see is that design, it's a Scott Adams quote, design is destiny. From the design of things, you can actually tell where things are headed. Right. If you just look at the design, you can understand through form and function where things are supposed to go. Now, we can see with the censorship industrial complex, with this hallucinatory system, with this brainwashing system, the design of it, now that we can see the architecture of deceit, now that we can see how it works, the design, the destiny is we've got to shove it into the fucking garbage, because it's nothing but injecting brainwashing into people's heads, right? So it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And we can see that now. We can see the corruption of the federal government in the way that it works against people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, right? So the design of this current system is so bad that its destiny is almost guaranteed. It's almost guaranteed now, right? The amount of corruption that's come in, the amount of leaks within the system, right? Remember, we talk a lot about fault tolerance, right? The fault tolerance of the fiat centralized system is actually really high, or sorry, really low in a sense, right? Bitcoin's fault tolerance is 49%. Bitcoin can stomach 49% failure and still be perfectly operational, right? The fiat system, I don't know, there's no way to determine exactly what the percentages are, but if 10% or 20% of the consistency of the story, if the designed architecture doesn't maintain that consistent narrative in all aspects, they all have to be coordinated, it all has to make sense, it'll collapse, right? I think the percentage is actually quite low. I think the fault tolerance of the fiat system can't be 10%. It can't be 10%, right? And so now we're well beyond that, I think. And people are seeing all of this architecture of deceit. They're seeing the design. They're seeing how they've been duped and lied to. And more it's becoming obvious, right? So you can even see it, right? Now this is somewhat unfair. Zelensky did his tour in America. His English is terrible, right? It's no good. He sounds retarded. Like, he can't speak English. I don't know what he's doing out there trying to speak English. It's awful, right? He should, I don't know, get a translator or try and speak in his native language, because I don't know if it's the drugs or the stress, but he sounds like his IQ is, Joe Biden territory at this point, right? Imagine a conversation between Zelensky and Joe Biden. funny to think of, right? But here's what he said in his bad English, and it's miscalculated, but he actually said this. He actually said it, right? And it's not true. I don't think he meant it this way, right? But it's the design fits with what he's talking about here, so it makes it true in its own way. He wrote, he said this on Fox. He says, don't build roads. Spend all your money on weapons, drones, society, and pensions. We have only one enemy, Putin. He's don't just fight. Just spend all your money on war and things like that, right? So unbelievably, that's what he said. Now there's a community note on it, and I believe he deserves it, right? That's fine. But it gets worse, because the whole war, right? We've seen now that there is and has been a peace plan for a long time. We had Tucker Carlson and David Sachs and Representative Paulina Luna that all went on Mario Nawfal's show last night. And Tucker Carlson and everyone spoke about this reality, that there has been a peace plan that's been available to everyone since 2022. And the only reason why we're at war, is to support what we saw yesterday on the steps of the Capitol, Hunter Biden running away from cameras and avoiding his subpoena. If you didn't see that, it happened, right? Trump says last night, I don't know if you guys saw, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hunter Biden thing, but Hunter Biden remember we were talking last week, Hunter Biden was supposed to come and testify publicly in Congress, right? But he got lost. He went to the Congress and not the Senate or something like that. He's in like the wrong end of the building. So then he comes outside and just says, I'm not testifying, right? And gives a speech and says it's all politically motivated. It's all politically motivated, right? It's all politically, well, he's right. It is all politically motivated. But what are the motivations? You have to look at the design. What's the design, right? Well, we'll see it. The design is hide Hunter. Don't face up to these problems. Don't expose any of the reasons for which Joe Biden and Hunter Biden can be blackmailed. And the reason why we know that now is because there was a peace plan, which we've understood for a while. It's not news, but Tucker and David Sachs got more into it yesterday, saying this war wouldn't still be in progress were it not for the Biden administration, abetted by the leadership of the Republican Party. Don't forget that about the Republicans. I don't want to come here and start saying this is all a Democrat thing. The whole city is screwed up and corrupted, right? So here's what he says. Zelensky said, and we can prove it because we're going to talk about another vote in a second that happened yesterday. Zelensky just said that they were going to call up 40-year-olds. What does that tell you? There are no more 25-year-olds. I'm talking about the people who pushed the war, who went to the Munich Security Conference, the vice president, the president, undersecretary of state, who said to Zelensky that we want you to join NATO, knowing that was Russia's red line. They knew that, and they did it anyway. They wanted a war. They destroyed Western Europe's economy by blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. But the main thing they did was destroy Ukraine. David Sachs, I personally believe that there are 500,000 people in Ukraine who are dead right now because we do not have an honest public conversation in the United States. If the mainstream media honestly reported that there was a deal available in the first month of this war to end the war and that we all had to agree on was for Ukraine to not be part of NATO, which it never will be anyway because it's not going to win this war. If the mainstream media does report that, I think the American people would have said, of course we should sign that deal. Why would we block it? Representative Anna Paulina says, one of the reasons why I've been so vocal about not giving Ukraine any more funding is that the parliament intent once this war is over, they actually want to take all of the equipment we provided them and essentially start their own Wagner group. And I think the fact that is that Republican Party as a whole, even McConnell, I mean, many people have been complicit, really just supporting the military industrial complex. Tucker finishes by saying the Israelis were honest enough, as you remember Naftali Bennett, to say over a year ago there was a peace deal in progress and it was scuttled by the US. It's a massive moral crime, like the blood of those kids is on your hands. Yet they're running around lecturing us about democracy and how they're on the right side of history. The opposite is true. They've committed a horrific crime and the main victim has been Ukraine, and they're still posing as defenders of Ukraine, right? Now, at the same time, we can see, what they said here about the Republicans being complicit. Well, we know that as of yesterday, there was a couple legal things that happened yesterday in America that are interesting, but one of them is that the warrantless spying passed the Senate. So Republicans, it passed by 6 or 7 votes, right? So it almost failed, but they're going to extend warrantless spying on Americans with the full support of both parties, it seems, right? There was quite a bit of dissent in Republican, but not enough, not even nearly enough. So it's going to the House today. We'll see if it continues. Probably, I don't think we're going to win this one this time. But that's what's going on, right? But at the same time, it sort of doesn't really matter anymore, in a sense, because the warrantless spying comes from this design of censorship and brainwashing and the corruption of our systems, right? So that's really where it comes from, but that's the thing that's dying. So it's sort of a downriver effect, right? The upriver effects, the more important effects, are being felt right now, and that's why this fault tolerance of the system is collapsing, right? So the next piece, Media Matters, understanding the architecture of deceit, understanding how they make people hallucinate, understanding all of that. It's becoming clearer, easier to see, doesn't take hallucinations, doesn't take imagination, doesn't take conspiracy theory, doesn't take someone whispering what they think and then you think about it. We see it all, right? We can see it in infographics, and people make them and they make it more and more clear. But now it turns out, right? That Trump, right? Trump is going to get the Supreme Court. Remember, we talked 2 days ago about the Supreme Court looking into Trump's if he can run again, the sedition and all of that stuff, right? But now the Supreme Court is looking at another part of Jack Smith's case, right? Not just the one we talked about 2 days ago. Now they're also going to look at this weird thing. It's how they got everyone in January 6th into prison. It's also half of the case against Trump, which is this obstruction of an official proceeding thing, right? So this comes from Enron from those days, right? It's this weird thing where if there's a trial and you get involved, you're obstructing the trial and then therefore you're guilty. But it's this weird, official processes. Well, I don't know if you understood this, but it's not a crime, basically. So this is something no one ever told you, right? Do you know it's not a crime at all to go and try and influence the electoral college on the day of the vote. That's what they've been telling us this whole time, that's a crime, right? The sacred electoral college and the procedure of submitting the votes cannot be infringed upon. That's not true. That's not true. You're allowed. Now, it'll all come out in the wash. You can't commit other crimes. You don't have the right to murder them or anything like that, obviously, right? All normal crimes apply. But you are absolutely allowed to protest and tell them no and all of that stuff, right? The provision they use to go after these people, blocking an official proceeding, comes from this Enron case, and it's very tenuous. It doesn't really stick. So the Supreme Court is going to look at that too now, right? That's a big difference. And it looks like that by looking at that, it paused all the litigation against Trump in that case. And I can't imagine the Supreme Court is not going to find in Trump's favor here. It's just, it's a corrupt system. It's not about being on Trump's side. This is the Supreme Court, right? They're going to, I think, come down the middle. But down the middle is you have an insurrectionist criminal government that stole the election. So that's what they're going to come out and say. And they're going to come out and say that everything they've done in this case to stop Trump is 100% unconstitutional. So they're going after this Enron thing, and this is what Julie Kelly writes. She says, this is a felony used against 300 January 6ers and represents half of Jack Smith's indictment against Trump. If SCOTUS determines that the DOJ misused the statute, it will be a game changer. So this is what she's saying. This is a day that so many January 6ers have been waiting for. Lives destroyed, people rotting in prison, all because Biden's DOJ abused a post-Enron evidence tampering statute. And what will Jack Smith do now? 2 of 4 counts in his indictment in jeopardy. This is potentially more impactful than the immunity case. Will he drop the 1512C2 related counts? Will he seek a superseding indictment with other charges? Trump's lawyers presumably will file a motion to dismiss those counts. Never a boring day. Jack Posobiec says, nice Trump case you have there, Jack Smith. And he puts a picture of Clarence Thomas. And he goes, shredded it and released all the Jays. It'd be a shame if someone shredded it and released all the J6ers at the same time. So you can see it coming, right? It's going to be hilarious when it happens. And remember what we said about Jack Smith 2 days ago, what Patrick Byrne said, right? Patrick Byrne, major credibility problems with Patrick Byrne, right? But doesn't mean he's wrong about everything. Patrick Byrne, who was part of this blackmail industrial complex, right? Remember that? So a major Bitcoiner who I know, who I interacted with while he was getting blackmailed against the Trump campaign, who felt bad about it all, came out in public and said, I was blackmailed to be anti-Trump. I don't mean any of it. I was supposed to get dirt. This is all stuff he said. This was strange to me too when it happened in 2020. It happened during the election because I knew Patrick. I'd booked him a couple times for shows, right? I had no idea he was even interested in politics, and all of a sudden he's a spy. And now there's a lot of trouble with it, right? Again, but what he said about Jack Smith is that Jack Smith is making such stupid legal decisions because if you look at it like this, right? If you look at it plainly, right? If you look at it plainly, you can see that you can see that he wasn't making clear legal decisions. He wasn't like, I'm a great lawyer. This is like so good in law. Every lawyer who looked at it went, that's really weak. There's no way Trump's going to be guilty. What are they even doing here, right? What's going on? The way to explain it is that he's blackmailed. Patrick Byrne created a fictional story, which he said in his notes. He said it might have looked something like this. Hey, Jack, we know you're a blackmailer. You're going to blackmail the president. I don't care how bad it looks. I don't care how stupid you look. You're going to hound him and dog him and be crazy. Once you know that part of the story and now you look at his face, what they called steely-eyed, handsome Jack Smith, that's all I see now. I see someone who's like, fuck, I'm in shit and I'm doing the craziest stuff in the world. They're going to get that guy, right? They're going to get him. And I think that part of it is over. So, so we got the lawfare being clearly articulated. We've got the Biden administration. And remember the fault tolerance here, the design is destiny piece, right? This is the Bukele saying everything is by design. And then you get that other statement, design is destiny, where you can actually predict from design where things are headed. What did I predict a year ago, right? I think I can even remember the title of it, right? I think I called it Vivek Primary Colors. Primary Colors being a book about the primaries that Bill Clinton was very successful in 1990 or 1992. And so, I just wanted, I made a title, basically Primary Colors, vivid, Vivek, right? It was like bright primary colors. I said at the time that these primary candidates would do more damage to the hallucinatory system than anyone out there. And what do we see, right? We see yesterday, RFK's poll numbers in the 20s now. He's polling in the 20s, straight up polling in the 20s. All right, straight up polling in the 20s. He also writes yesterday, let me get his quote. He also writes yesterday that let me find his quote yesterday. Well, anyway, his whole thing was, corrupt, terrible. I'm polling high. Can't believe we had a peace deal. His quote was about the peace deal. I just don't know where I put it. His quote was about the peace deal. Maybe I didn't put it in my notes. So that's good news. But even better, even better was Vivek last night. Whoever saw it, we've already seen people talking about it here, how great it was. So Vivek goes on to CNN, right? And he's there with Abby Phillips, one of the dumbest people they have, right? And so she's trying to like roll him into conversations and defend what they call conspiracy theories, right? She's trying to roll him on like, what, people say about you, people have been quoting you talking about revolution and what, people who are January 6th plotters think you're great, and they're asking about it, right? So he comes in and he does a masterclass, just a masterclass in forcing the CNN audience to understand the number of hoaxes that they've been duped by. That's the key here, right? The key for a lot of us is to mock these people for being so gullible and, mock them for, you believe that one too? You believe that one? You believed that one, right? And you can go from Charlottesville, you can go from the beast, the car, Trump took over the car, drinking bleach, January 6th. You can go on and on about all these things. And that's what he did. He went on and on and on over her, didn't let her get a word in. She tried to interrupt him again and again, and he just dealt with her, right? It was hilarious. So here's what he tweets after, right? And so the crowd starts cheering him because this is like the first time a lot of these people have heard it. And they're like, wow, oh my God, what's happening, right? So you can tell, but her quality is so much lower than his. So she can't really rhetorically deal with him. She says, I don't want you spreading misinformation because that's what you do all the time. Right, so this is what he says after. Too bad for CNN. We'll take the truth on January 6th mainstream. There is clear evidence that there was, at the very least, entrapment of peaceful protesters, similar to the fake Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot and countless other cases. So he actually told the audience who heard it for the first time that the Michigan governor, that whole big story that white supremacists were going to kidnap her, was all a scam and fake. And he even said, this is a part I didn't know. I never heard about this. Did you know that one of the jurors, once they figured out what was going on, went to one of the accused and hugged them after the case and said, I can't believe I was a party of this. I can't believe I was involved, like what you had to go through. So he said that to them, right? And the crowd was like, whoa, right? CNN has never heard any of this stuff. They're not going to be able to have him on again, right? It's too much. It's too much. And you can't put him on with Abby. Like she can't handle it, right? She's too stupid. I don't think she knows, right? Don't forget, major portions of the censorship industrial complex are just stupid. That's it. They fell for it. That's it. They're volunteers. What Mike Benz calls volunteer, right? They're just like, I want to be on the team, right? They're just spares. It's hilarious. So she actually said that. So this is what Vivek says. Too bad for CNN. We'll take the truth on January 6th mainstream. There is clear evidence that there was, at the very least, entrapment of peaceful protesters, similar to the fake Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot and countless other cases. The FBI won't admit how many undercover officers were in the field on January 6th. Capitol Police, on one hand, fired rubber bullets and explosives into a peaceful crowd who they then willingly later allowed to enter the Capitol. That doesn't add up, and the actual evidence turns the prior narrative upside down. If the deep state is willing to manufacture an insurrection to take down its political opponents, then they can do anything. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And indeed, now that we're starting to get to the very fun level, what did I say 2024 was going to be? It was just going to be people's minds getting blown. Just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's not going to stop. We're not even in 2024 yet. We're not even in there, right? So we're getting there close, right? No, it is changing colors. Yeah, it's Everyday Walking with Christ. It does change. It's a defect of there. See, it's a slight defect of the Apple cameras. You can see it's like I don't know why. I hate it. I can't figure out how to get it. And the key was being on CNN. Yes. Everyday Walking with Christ. The key to what Vivek did yesterday was that it was on CNN, right? We've heard this stuff many times in other platforms on the internet. Obviously, we hear it all the time. We hear it here every morning, right? So none of this was new to us. But to CNN, it was all new, right? Isn't that hilarious? Isn't that fun? So here we go. Lots of people commenting on it, right? We've got, let me see the comments we've got. That's the Vivek one. Colin Rugg writes, Vivek shuts down CNN's Abby Phillips as she tries interrupting him for 3 minutes straight while he calls out the government for framing January 6ers. He uses that point here. Why did they suppress 200 hours of footage of shooting rubber bullets into that crowd, shooting tear gas into that crowd? You didn't see that before. The government cherry-picked 12 hours of footage when there was 200 hours of footage. I think there was even more. So that's a big thing, right? That's major. Now, here's the other funny part, right? So Hunter does his thing yesterday, right? So again, just think of design here, right? So Hunter goes, he's on the Capitol Hill yesterday, right? And he says, oh, it's politically motivated, right? House member. So he told reporters that Joe had nothing to do with this shady stuff. Eric Abinante here writes, rules for thee, but not for me. Hunter Biden complains about a fraction of lawfare that Trump is currently experiencing. Hunter blames MAGA Republicans for impugning his character and for unfair proceedings. The 1994 crime bill written by his own dad should have put him in prison, but the corrupt privilege that he had from the last name Biden prevented that. Now we get Byron McDonald's all over it saying we are dealing. So remember, he comes to the thing yesterday and gets lost, right? As Trump said, he got Hunter. Where's Hunter? Hunter got lost. He says it's all lawfare, right? He says it's all lawfare. And then the president starts complaining, right? The president comes out and says, outraged President Biden describes Republican impeachment inquiry as baseless and a stunt, says the American people want Congress to work for them rather than impeaching him. Craig Wright speaks. Craig Wright. I'm telling you guys, he is the Craig Wright of presidents. He's the Craig Wright of presidents. Only Bitcoiners can understand what this means. He is the Craig Wright of presidents, right? In a lengthy statement minutes ago, Biden wrote and of course, he can't say it publicly. Imagine Biden trying to say this publicly, right? He has to write it because obviously he didn't write it. The American people need their leaders in Congress to take action on important priorities for the nation and the world. On Tuesday, I met with the president of Ukraine, who is leading his people in a battle for freedom against Russian aggression. Yeah, we just heard about that. He came to America to ask us for help, yet Republicans ask Congress, and Congress won't act. The people of Israel are in battle against terrorists, and they are waiting for our help, yet Republicans in Congress won't act to help. We have to address the situation at our southern border. Now it's the southern border. We need funding to strengthen border security. We need border money. We need border money. Give me border money. We need to continue our progress on the economy and make sure inflation keeps going down and job growth keeps going up. That means avoiding self-inflicted economic crises like the government being shut down, which Republicans in Congress are driving us toward in just a few weeks. Oh, it's another shutdown. I didn't even hear about this one, right? A new shutdown. Remember the last one? It was the best. We had a great time. There's a lot of work to be done, right? I wake up every day focused on issues facing American people, real issues that impact their lives and the strength and security of our country and the world. Unfortunately, House Republicans are not joining me. They're not joining him. Right? They're not joining him. So there you go. They're not joining him. Right? He goes on and on and on. Right? Where are we here? Oh yeah, here's what Vivek says about it, right? The facts about Biden's corruption have been evident for a long time, but there's a reason why the MSM is finally airing it. They've lost their use for Biden, and they're getting ready to trot out their next puppet in 2024. Yeah, I see that. That's where I'm at. I've been at that since the summer. I've been telling you since the summer, the Bidens have been cut loose. They're on their own, and I think this is all perfect evidence of that. They've lost their use for Biden, and they're getting ready to trot out their next puppet in 2024. They'll do that right as Trump's trials begin next year, so they can justify those prosecutions as nonpartisan. It's an optical illusion. Don't fall for it, is what Vivek says. All true, right? So now let's go back to everything is by design, and we'll finish up with this thought, right? Everything is by design, and design is destiny, right? So everything is by design, and the design of it will actually tell you where things are going, right? What happened other than all of these shenanigans and all this bullshit yesterday, right? All of this corruption, all of this failure, the system that's absolutely collapsing. Well, inside of that, something amazing happened, right? Something a lot of Bitcoiners have been waiting for a long time. Something Michael Saylor has been waiting for a long time. And that is the fair accounting standards have been altered in Bitcoin's favor, but in a major way. So what you need to understand about this is that in America, when you sell and account for securities, right, you can often choose within some rules an optimal price at which you acquired the asset in order to sell it. So you can sell at a loss and declare that loss for taxes. All right. Now, the way it had been set up against Michael Saylor until now was that he had to take the lowest number of the year. So there was no way to use losses for your taxation management, right? But the same wasn't available to you for gains because you had to take the lowest price. So if you bought any coin in 2019, you had to take the 3,000 US dollar price as the lowest of the year. You couldn't say, oh, I bought it at 7,000 or 8,000, or remember in 2019, it went up to 15,000 for a little bit, right? So you couldn't say that, right? If you bought at 15,000 and then sold at 7, right? And you had to go as a company, not as an individual, you had this freedom. But as a company, you had to say, no. I lost all this. I made money. I made money, even though you lost. So it was very stupid. And it was something that was holding Bitcoin back from going into corporate balance sheets. So it's been one of Michael Saylor's major fights against this corrupt legal system for a long time. He actually went to DC to deal with this stuff. If you remember, Michael Saylor was removed from the board of his own, or the CEO position of his own company. Still on the board, sorry. He was removed as CEO. For this. It was for this, right? This is the context. And I don't remember if it was a cause and effect thing, but it was in the same time, right? So now we know. Michael Saylor said 1 year ago that the 3 catalysts to take Bitcoin to the next level were the spot ETF approval, traditional bank custody of BTC, that's always been the case, fair value accounting from FASB. You got it. A lot of people talking about this. David Marcus saying, you may think this is a small accounting change that doesn't mean much. It's actually a big deal. This removes a large obstacle standing in the way of corporations holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. 2024 will be a landmark year for Bitcoin, which is what we believe. So here's other good news. Elon Musk creating a university in Austin, Texas, right? So focused at elementary, high school, so it's a university that will have a elementary and high school focused on STEM, and it'll expand into a university is his plan, right? What could be better than this? What could be better, right? So that's great news. You've also got the Chinese announcing they've got this new nuclear cargo ship, right? That's going to be great, right? Why is the American military with their stupid nuclear submarines, which I love. I think the nuclear submarines are the best. I call them stupid because why the hell wasn't that technology shared everywhere? Why are we using it just on these dumb submarines? I want it for everything. So that could happen. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. All right. Let me read some comments and Oh yeah, so he says they showed when he was doing his victim tour, right? When he was doing his victim tour on the show, he's like, they showed my naked pictures. They showed me naked. So Benny Johnson, who, if you don't follow him, you should, had Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show talking about this because she's the one who showed all these, right? The Hunter Biden pictures in Congress, right? That's the thing he was. I'm a victim. They were showing nude pictures of me in Congress, right? And she says it wasn't actually me showing naked pictures of him. It was actually pornography that Hunter Biden himself uploaded to porn websites with women that he was paying for sex and paid them to travel across state lines. So, if we would take a look at design being destiny, right? Everything is by design, as Bukele said, and design lets us know where we're headed. It looks like Bitcoin is getting everything it needs to take over America in 2024. And it looks like the America that came before, the fiat US dollar America, is done. It's done. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. He's all of it, right? So, almost done, guys. We're there. 2024, going to be the best. One of the best comedies in the year was Zelensky's speech in Canada during the Hunka Nazi. Wasn't it, Tom? Wasn't it just like, as a Canadian, as a embarrassed Canadian, as someone who thinks Canada is the dumbest, most pathetic country, at least in the Americas. I mean, we got to give it that. I mean, Cuba's pretty shit, but the problem with Canada is that it's filled with Canadians, and that's the major issue, right? They are. It's not so much the country being dumb; it's filled with stupid people, and that's what you get, right? You end up cheering Nazis. You cheer Nazis in your parliament, so it's perfect, right? Zelensky is like a drug addict, constantly hitting up his parents for more money. Biden entertains it because he has less. It's true. It's like his other crackhead son. Yeah, yeah. Hunter and Zelensky. My crackhead kids. Say Hillary. Say Hillary. No matter what. Oh, yeah, we got that one. What about the creepy leave the world behind movie Obama shilling? What a disgrace. I think that's Chinese. I think Obama's involved. But to me that looks, but yeah, it's bad pre-programming. It's not good. This is what we're up against though. So we're up against the low IQ people like Abby Phillips, right? That's part of it because they're too stupid and you just have to run over them with, your arguments and stuff like that, exactly as Vivek did. But there are smart people on the other side, and predictive programming and all that is part of it. So, or whatever they call that, the stuff that gets you to act that way in the future. Share this out to ever more people. We love it. You're not hallucinating about the colors every day. Austin could use the help. Yeah. Accounting change is huge. Yeah. There you go. All right. So glad I stumbled across this channel. Spread the good word, ladies and gents. Share it with your friends and enemies alike. We love them all. There you go. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I shall see y'all tomorrow. Glad I made it. Glad I got through. And I'll get this thing set up a little better. And we'll be doing some fun shows from here. Peace.